SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Have you been seriously injured? Mama Justice is here for you. Our medical team partners with top-notch doctors, surgeons, therapists, and urologists, ensuring a comprehensive recovery journey. If you've been injured, call Mama Justice today. We're here for you.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. Morning there, Rhino.
Howdy, howdy.
Okay, I'm trying to get one of the ears in my headset to work here. You know how deadgum annoying that is. See if I can move the cord a little bit. Usually that'll do it. When you wrap these cords up every day like I do and stuff it into a little carrying case, it can mess them up, can't it?
Oh, there's about 40 different failure points in a pair of good headphones. It's kind of ironic. It's like the Jeff Foxworthy joke about the cheap sunglasses.
Yeah.
Like you spend good money on a pair of sunglasses, you'll lose them or they'll break. You go buy a cheap pair of sunglasses, you could be on a cruise ship, lean over, they fall in the water, a scuba diver's going to come up and go, hey, you lose some glasses? Same thing with headphones. The cheapest, most nondescript pair of headphones could get run over by a bulldozer and still be fine, whereas the good ones, they're finicky.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, did you have a good Friday off? Enjoyed a little soccer?
It was glorious.
Yeah.
We're now 2-0 at the World Cup in the group stage matches.
Was that expected?
I expected it. I predicted a 2-1, 3-1 win. We won 2-0. So, we won by 2. That was what I predicted.
So what's next for the U.S. team?
Next, we take on Turkey for the final group stage match late this Thursday night. I am a bit worried about that match, but not because I'm worried about the result. Because with winning the first 2 matches of the group stage, the U.S. has already clinched our spot in the knockout rounds. We are moving on. But we've got several players sitting on yellow cards, and in the group stage, if you get 2 yellow cards, you got to sit out the next match. So if those players got another yellow card in the final group stage match, they'd be sitting for the knockout round match, and that would not be ideal.
Gotcha.
So what's worrying me is we've got all this momentum. You've got this groundswell of support because America loves the winner, and we've won twice now. And you've got people starting to recognize players on this team, players getting attention they haven't previously received from people who don't usually watch the game of soccer.
Yeah.
And I'm worried some of those players might be sitting for the benefit of the team and the tournament play. And you're going to have some people tuning in because they're getting excited, and they might be a little disappointed because they don't recognize the people on the field, or the people on the field might not gel as well as the first squad. So Thursday night's going to be a bit antsy, but in the end of the day, win, lose, or draw, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because the U.S. is moving on. They will be playing in a round of 32 matchup. Right now, the way it looks, that could be against Bosnia or Qatar, which would be favorable matchups for the U.S. Think we could win those. Not going to get too far ahead and go out all the way down the lineup, but yeah, it's been a good time to be a U.S. soccer fan, and there's plenty of room on the bandwagon. We're coming up on July 4th. You might as well get patriotic and pull for Team USA.
Now, were they without their star on Friday, right?
They were, and that was a good sign that the team could shift and change and tweak and modify their strategy and their tactics and still come out with a win. I would not be surprised if you see Christian Pulisic play Thursday night against Turkey because you want to keep him sharp. I would be really surprised if he played the full match. But I also wouldn't be surprised if the coach sat him for another week, let him get fully rested up and healed for the knockout rounds.
Yep. Well, one thing is for sure, the visitors from abroad have been enlightened. Does this mean they've been lied to about this country by their media, their government, etc.?
Kinda. I think it's a bit of the mindset where Mad Men, where the guy goes, I don't even think about you. There are a lot of Americans that don't really think about Europe on a daily basis.
Yep.
I think it's the same with Europeans. There are a lot of Europeans that just live their life and never really think about America. But they get over here and they're starting to realize, because just being completely, totally, 100% see-through here, a lot of the Europeans that have come to America for the World Cup are kind of upper crust individuals. It costs a lot of money to follow your team around for a few weeks in the U.S.
Yeah.
But even though they're the upper crust in their countries, they're coming to America and seeing, wait, this random suburb has a neighborhood full of houses that we would consider mansions.
True.
And they're just middle America. And it's kind of blowing their minds because they thought they were on our level because they're affluent over there and they're able to do what they want over there with their affluence. They come over here and their level of affluence is suburbia to us.
Like one of the things they've mentioned is they don't have to keep circling the block to find a place to park on the street. They actually have driveways and garages and yards and fences and stuff, right? Little privacy, little of your own piece of the American dream. Yet we have people over here that deride our country and criticize it as being unfair and oppressive and the deck is stacked and all that kind of nonsense. But when people come from outside of our country and they are exposed to our affluence, which is evident at all levels of income to a great extent relative to other countries. Unbelievable.
Got a question on the text line from Johnny in West Point.
Yeah.
How does the knockout round work? If you lose, are you one and done, or is there a loser's bracket? The knockout rounds at the World Cup are single elimination. You win or you go home. So once you get there, there's no more, we could come up with a draw and everybody goes away with a point. Knockout rounds, if they're tied at the end of 90 minutes, you're playing another 30 minutes.
Okay.
If you're still tied after that, you go to penalties. And anybody that's been a fan of a soccer team that went to penalties, that is about the nerviest moment you can get.
On the C Spire text line, good morning, gentlemen. I am loving all the videos from the visitors of the World Cup. Democrats must be mad that the media view they have portrayed of America is not quite reality. I spent an hour before bed last night going down the rabbit hole of all the videos and reels. It makes me proud to be an American, and our actual country is being portrayed by first-hand videos. Yeah, not people with an agenda, just observers, just individuals that are shocked and stunned at what they're finding. Yeah, I agree, Nathan.
You've got
excellent
videos of families bringing their children to the World Cup matches, and they were talking about, before coming to America, all they heard about was violence, and they were worried about the safety of their kids, and they were worried that people were going to be cold or mean. And they get here and they find that, no, it's pretty safe, and people are pretty warm and welcoming. And even in places that aren't as associated with hospitality as we are here in Mississippi, are coming together to welcome these people and show them a good time and share in some of the love of our country we have. And it's almost infectious.
Yeah.
The joy that's being spread, the peace and goodwill that's being shared amongst people that without this opportunity would never have met.
So true. I think it's kind of neat. Who would have thunk it would have taken soccer that attracted all these visitors that otherwise wouldn't come here, honestly. And, of course, they're traveling around, so they're seeing lots of different areas of the country.
Oh, yeah, like you've probably seen tons of videos of the Tartan Army, the Scottish fans, up in Boston, drinking the town dry and partying through the night and having a great time. Well, their next match is in Miami. So a lot of them have been making the trip down from Boston to Miami, making it into a road trip, going along the eastern seaboard. And it's been hilarious because there have been multiple Scottish fans that have stopped at little rest stops by the wayside and have discovered raccoons. And they are fascinated by it. They don't have them over in the UK. And they're just watching these little creatures run around with their hands, picking up stuff and playing with things and having to be told, no, don't mess with those. They're still a wild animal.
Neil from Pontotoc says, kind of like when outsiders come to Mississippi, they find it's not as bad as media makes it. 100%, Neil. Totally true. Media, they enjoy us being the butt of their jokes and their criticism and their castigation. They're totally wrong, of course. We've always known that. But you're right. I experienced it in business over and over and over again. These folks come here, never been here before. Wow, had no idea. Right, we know that. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio. At 11:05, it's Sally Doty, the director of the Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility.
I feel good.
Hi, I'm Em.
Now back to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. Are you thinking about or planning for retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income growth and guarantees. The C Spire text line wide open, 601-879-4395. Let's see. This morning on the news, Scott and So-So says, they reported that the people who were visiting the United States were packing bottles of ranch dressing to take back home like they've never had it before. TSA was filming their suitcases when they opened them full of ranch dressing. Never know, do you?
Hidden Valley actually came out with an airport-ready pack of TSA-approved sizes of ranch packets to put in the check bag so you can carry some ranch home with you.
Yeah, Jimmy in Madison reports. Yeah, we're aware, Jimmy, about WFMN. The weather's been wreaking havoc, just so you'll know, on some of our stations, and our engineers are all over it. Obviously, if you're trying to hear us off air and on air, I should say, and your station is down, that's the only one I know of right now, right? WFMN, which is in the Jackson area. So you can catch us on the app, don't forget that, or on the full-size website, supertalk.fm.
I think there's an issue in Meridian as well, but they're working on it.
Okay. Father's Day. Hope everybody remembered Father's Day yesterday. My family was certainly gracious to me, and I couldn't help but thinking about my father as well, who departed this earth to join his Maker, the Almighty God, in 1998. Alfred Charles Gibert, his name. 5th grade education my father had. Honestly, could barely read or write. But I describe him as the smartest person I ever met. He just was one of these people that had such great common sense, understanding of people and human nature, right from wrong, was a great father, mentor, and I'm blessed to have had him in my life and to have had him as my father. And I think most folks out there that were blessed with a loving, nurturing, guiding father would tell you that they were critical to their upbringing and developing them into the successful person they are today, which is why we talk a lot on this program about the issue of fatherless homes in our state. Sadly, ranks number one of the 50 states in that category at 46%. 46% of the children in the state of Mississippi, unfortunately, live in a fatherless home. It's critical. It's important. Maybe we ought to think about having a nuclear family month instead of a pride month. And I want to be clear. I know there are a number of extremely successful single mother families. They are exceptional, taking on the dual role. And I applaud them and I respect them. It's very difficult. And there are often extenuating circumstances that lead to those situations where you've got a single mom taking care of a child or children. And again, they are super special and are to be thanked and recognized and respected. No doubt about it. But statistically, it's just more difficult. That's just statistical fact. So I think it's a core problem in our state and in our country, this dissolution of the nuclear family, and we no longer, I think, hold it in the level of reverence that we should of the nuclear family itself. It clearly produces better outcomes. And in some circles, as you know, Rhino, in the left, they'll castigate you if you promote that as a sort of a more common lifestyle and one that in household and one that has produced positive outcome for society. They'll jump all over you. And I'm not exactly sure why. It just seems like anything that's kind of traditional, they get all mad about. Would you say? It's like, oh, no, we can't do that. We always got to be radical, go against the grain.
Conform to nonconformity.
That's true. And they thrive on it. So, and again, I want to be clear. I don't want to disrespect the single parents. I know lots of things happen that cause that are beyond their control. And many do just an outstanding job. But unfortunately, most don't. And then there's the issue of babies being born out of wedlock, which typically does lead to that child being raised in a fatherless home. Sadly, we rank top in that category as well. 56% of the babies born in our state out of wedlock. If I'm not mistaken, Rhino, nationally, it's like 45%. And again, it's a more difficult road to hoe when that scenario occurs. So Father's Day yesterday, Mother's Day about a month ago, and I know one thing, you ain't got but one mother, one father, and we should cherish that without a doubt. The situation in Iran is unclear, I think is the way that I would describe it. So much news on the negotiations over the weekend. It was hard to keep up with it because as soon as something would break, something opposite of that would break. So apparently the latest is Vice President J.D. Vance is in Switzerland negotiating with Iran, working on the details of a deal. The president says the Strait of Hormuz is open. Iran says they're closing it. It's hard to track it and to understand what's fact from fiction. Also, Jared Kushner.
If you look at the map full of transponders, there's a heck of a lot more traffic going through it than there has been the last couple months.
Agree. And my friend, bandmate, lead guitarist Steve Lott sent me that exact thing. He, of course, spent a career in the oil and gas industry and has access to these tools and understands exactly what you're talking about. He sent me the same yesterday morning, showing that the traffic moving through is up to about 90% or so of normal flow, right? You're shaking your head. That's your understanding as well. But, the Iranians said, oh, no, we're closing it down, right? So, but as we have pointed out, and you certainly have emphasized numerous times, lying is expected. It's customary. It's acceptable in their culture if it achieves the objective of ridding the world of the infidels. And that's what's so hard about this. So there's also been reports that Jared Kushner, involved in these negotiations, is proposing a deal where Iranian assets would be unfrozen, but the funds, a condition of that, would be used to purchase food from American farmers to feed the Iranian population. I actually thought that was a pretty good idea. But the core goal of eliminating Iran's nuclear ambitions and their nuclear threat, I think that's the key issue that's being negotiated, and I'm not sure what to think at this point. It's not clear where that's going. But the price of oil, traders are certainly optimistic about these negotiations. The price of oil is down. It is below $80 a barrel, and the last I looked, in the $75 a barrel range. The Dow is up today, but the NASDAQ, up earlier, now has turned negative. But it's hard to put your finger on to what extent these negotiations are affecting it. I'd say overall, investors expect there to be some resolution to this situation in the near term. Yeah, oil down today to $74 and change, below the $75 mark. So that's a good thing. The volatility index is still trending upward. That just means traders are not quite sure what to think about all this stuff. So we'll see where all that goes. This proposition of a wealth tax, coming right back about that.
From the Seabrook. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Something that certainly affects the state of Mississippi with respect to the war in Iran, that's the agricultural industry. The possible end of the war has caused problems for the agriculture industry, the war itself, I should say, but the possibility of the war ending could be a welcome sign. There's a drought that has stunned the wheat crop. Lots of problems affecting the nation's farmers. Soybean export orders are caught up in this U.S.-China trade war. And then there's the need for competition, many farmers say, among the processors of what they produce. And then there's this screwworm thing that's going on. Flesh eating eats the flesh of cattle. That is seen as a huge risk and concern to the nation's cattle industry, with, of course, the cost of beef already through the roof. So hopefully, if the Strait of Hormuz can get open and we see some lasting peace, this could be some relief to farmers because, of course, that's driven up the closure of the strait has driven up the price of fuel, diesel specifically, and, of course, the cost of fertilizer, urea specifically, has really been spiked. So this is a key constituency as well, and I think the president is paying attention to that. He wanting to get them in a better situation. Tariffs have had an impact as well. Those have been all over the map, however. So let's hope we get this thing behind us and get some relief to our farmers, including here in Mississippi, a vital industry to our state. Speaking of farmers, have you seen this, Rhino? Everybody in the cabinet's eating sauerkraut. What in the world? It's a new diet that seems to have consumed, pun intended, President Trump's cabinet, and it involves eating big portions of sauerkraut. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, Vice President J.D. Vance, they've all embraced the diet. They say it could slim their waistlines and make their skin glow.
Yeah, I think RFK said he lost something like 20 pounds on the diet.
Yeah, he did. He said it at an event in Michigan last week. J.D. Vance also on the diet. Kennedy, he was the first to convert. He's 72. Secretary Lutnick of Commerce, 64. Sean Duffy, Transportation, 54. Vance, of course, 41. So it's interesting that they've taken up this diet. I'm not a big fan of sauerkraut. I just want you to know. Kennedy began the diet about a year ago, and I think that's after he met with Dr. Sean O'Mara. This is his brainchild, consuming sauerkraut as part of the Maha movement. California, they never met a tax they didn't like, and it looks...
Are they done counting yet?
No, they're not. But they've called all the races. I don't really understand what this means. We stay open, essentially, until all the ballots are received. Well, how do you know? Because you mail them to everybody. That just seems duplicitous. I'll just put it that way. We've got a ballot measure in California coming up this November. And it will be to impose a wealth tax, one-time wealth tax of 5% on the state's billionaires. There are about 1,000 in the country. Some 200 live in California. And they want to collect 5% of the net worth of their net worth, a wealth tax, which I believe is unconstitutional. We don't tax wealth. They say they need it to shore up the state's Medicaid program because of the cuts imposed by the Trump administration to Medicaid. I say this all the time, and this is an example of it. The government's in the dang health insurance business. Primarily, that is what our government does. And it includes right here in Mississippi. When you consider that our general fund budget is $7.4 billion, and the Medicaid program in Mississippi is $8.5 billion. We're in the health insurance business. Well, these Californians, they have 700,000, I believe, signatures on the petition. Gavin Newsom, at this point, opposes the legislation. He thinks it would be bad for the state. But here's the deal. One time 5% that would be used, again, those funds would be infused into the Medicaid program. But here's where they're wrong. They say it's because of cuts by the Trump administration. But there really weren't any cuts. There were reasonable reforms. And those reforms are designed that, I don't know, only people truly eligible participate in the program. And here's an example. If you're in the coverage group that was created as part of the Affordable Care Act, so-called Medicaid expansion, able-bodied adults with an income in their household of below 138% of the federal poverty level, you can sign up for Medicaid. All the One Big Beautiful Bill Act did, the Trump administration, as they call it, said is, I'm sorry, you got to work for that. If you're not working, you got to be a full-time student, or you got to provide at least 80 hours a month. How big a deal is that? Or you've got to provide community service. And we're going to check you on that. And instead of checking, this is another reform in the bill, which was signed into law by President Trump just a little less than a year ago, is that you're going to have to check in with us every 6 months to make sure you're still eligible, not once a year. Well, that's not a cut. Another provision says, okay, you documented immigrants, you're legal. In other words, you have legal status in this country. You're documented, but I'm sorry, you don't get to participate in Medicaid. Now, they construe those as cuts, but not to American citizens. The big point I'm trying to make is the amount of money the federal government sends to the states to operate their programs. It's a matching program between the states and the federal government. By the way, according to law, no state's match from the federal government can be less than 50%. In Mississippi, sadly, it's 78%. That's how much the federal government ships to Mississippi to run Medicaid. I think in California, it's around 60, if I'm not mistaken. Point is, the same amount of money goes, same program rules as far as the cost sharing. It's just that, I'm sorry, you got to check in every 6 months. I'm sorry, you got to work. I'm sorry, legal immigrants, you don't get the benefits anymore. And then there is another provision. So, states will tax providers, called provider taxes. They collect money from providers. We do here in Mississippi, $500 million a year. And all the law says is, for those that are involved in have Medicaid expansion, you're not going to be able to tax right now. The safe harbor is 6%. We're going to lower that, phase that into 3.5% of revenue of the providers. So let's say a hospital does, just for argument's sake, $100 million a year of revenue. Right now, you can collect, the states can, up to $6 million, 6%. And states use that strategy, that approach, to get more money from the federal government. And the federal government now, under this new law, says, nope, can't be more than $3.5 million. And it's phased in like over 6 years. Well, that's not really cuts from the federal government. It's the federal government saying, sorry, states, you can't game the system the way you have been by getting providers who you're then paying in return. You know what I'm saying here. But you get what I'm saying, that they're being duplicitous, misleading, misrepresenting. No, there are no cuts. We're just reforming the program to rein it in. And Lord knows we should. How many different scams have been exposed in the last 3 months, from Minnesota to Ohio to California, on these organizations, NGOs and others, that have just completely hijacked the program for personal gain. Well, that's not cuts. That's just getting things back on the track. Coming right back in the Element Wealth Studio.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
reminds me it's Neshoba County Fair Week. The reason is because that's one of the songs the house band will be playing on the stage there this Thursday. Of course, we'll be over there for all of the festivities. The Neshoba County Fair, Mississippi's giant house party, is back and bigger than ever, and SuperTalk Mississippi will be there at Founder Square on Wednesday and Thursday this week. It's one of the biggest events of the year, and you don't want to miss it. Our coverage of the Neshoba County Fair is brought to you by Build Mississippi. If you've got a student wondering what's next after high school, Build Mississippi can help show them the options. It's also brought to you by Southern Farm and Ag, equipment that works as hard as the people running it. In the next segment, of course, it's Sally Doty, Director of the Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility, also known as BEAM. So, by the way, Grover Norquist, he's Americans for Tax Reform president. He's calling on Representative Ro Khanna. He represents the Silicon Valley in the United States House to practice what he preaches, because he's really pushing hard for this wealth tax. He says, well, why don't you go ahead and just voluntarily write a check? He's worth $237 million. That would cost him a little over $11 million. Be a leader. Practice what you preach. Bravo to you there, Grover. I totally agree. Meanwhile, I think it's your old buddy, Bernie Sanders.
Give me all your money.
He truly means it today, by the way. The octogenarian is hosting a big rally at the Capitol to push through the U.S. Capitol, to push through his wealth tax. He wants one. Now, the California wealth tax is one time. He wants it annual. He wants an annual wealth tax imposed on billionaires in this country. But he has a little different idea with respect to what to do with the wealth tax. He wants to send everybody a check. He literally, his plan is to just take money from the billionaires and send it to everybody else that's not. Actually, I take it back. Households whose income is below $150,000. He wants to send them, I think it's a check for $3,000 every year. So literally wants to just take it from this group, shove it out the door after skimming off the top to another group, in this case, those who have a household income of less than $150,000. Now,
so not trying to pay down the debt, not trying to actually do anything that would benefit society, just buy some votes. That
is exactly right. And the last time I did the math, and it's been a while, if we confiscated all their wealth, it's worth about 60 days of spending, something insane like that. So it's not like a permanent solution. And it does none of that, to your point, if all you do is take from this group and give to that group. You're not doing that to shore up the nation's balance sheet. You're not paying down the debt. You're not reducing deficits. You're giving it to more programs, right? Because that's what they do. Yeah, just totally incredible.
If it works like anything else the government does, for every $10,000 in tax money they receive, they might give out 1,000. The rest of it's going to go to everybody between the top and the bottom.
Totally right. Yeah, 1,000. He wants to give. Also, he has an AI tax to give everybody $1,000 a month. He wants to confiscate the possessions, the assets. I say that because what he wants is a 50% tax called the American AI Sovereign Wealth Fund, which would impose a 50% tax paid through stock. So if you're an AI company, you'd have to contribute 50% of your stock to this AI sovereign wealth tax fund. He wants to tax gross receipts, since most businesses traditionally considered AI companies aren't yet profitable. So he don't want your profit. He wants your revenue. And put that in this pot so that everybody in the country would have an equity ownership in these companies, and he'd use that to send them money every month, $1,000. Well, he's campaigning for this property seizure move today on the Capitol, plus his permanent annual wealth tax. Absolutely incredible. That's where we are in this country. It's sad, in my view. Time for a break right now on Middays. Sally Doty, director of the Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility, is up next in the Element Wealth Studio.
Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays. We are live in the Element Wealth Studio. It's Monday. That means it's a short show. Ricky Matthews' Super Talk Outdoors comes your way at 12:05 today. But right now, it's Sally Doty, director of the Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility, also known as BEAM. Good to see you, Sally. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me be here today.
Well, folks, of course, they're anxious to get their high-speed internet rolled out into their areas. Give us an update. How are we doing?
We're doing great. I really wanted to share some of the successes that we've had in our program, and we're heading into those last, most difficult areas to get. It's really the last 93,000 locations in Mississippi, and we're in my office. What we're working with is service to residential areas. And just kind of as an overview, we've had a tremendous amount of federal funding that flows through our office, and we set up the grant program where internet service providers can basically bid on an area and then build that out. Okay. Now, these projects, when you build it out, it takes, quite a while. It's a big infrastructure project, so a couple of years. But, we're seeing some real success. We finished a couple of programs. Some entity had put out statistics that Mississippi, back in 2020, we were 49th in high-speed internet coverage. And in 2026, we are 20th.
Okay.
So that was
been busy.
Yeah, we've been really busy. And Mississippi, the Governor Reeves has made some very good, and the legislature, they've made some very good investments, and really our program is working to get everyone covered in the state of Mississippi.
Okay. So who pays for this? Where's this money coming from?
The majority of this money is federal money. So the big money that we keep talking about, the $1 billion that we have, is from the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. And then we had $162 million from ARPA back during COVID. We also, in Mississippi, we put $75 million of our CARES Act funding during COVID into high-speed internet. Not many states did that. And that really fueled the build-out by our co-ops around the state of Mississippi, and that really has moved the needle. So I said we're now 20th in high-speed internet coverage. Among rural areas, our state is 10th.
Okay.
So that's really made a big difference.
Well, I think it's fair to say it's a little more difficult to achieve ubiquitous coverage in Mississippi because we are mostly a rural state.
We are, and so that is what my office has been engaged in over the past few years, is making sure we had a good map. And I thought when we started this process that surely we have a map of Mississippi that had every location and every address. Oh, no, that is not the case. So we have worked with our internet service providers. We've worked with the FCC. We work with our utility providers have given us a lot of information so we can make sure we have every address. And even then, sometimes we find something that's not on the map or the pin's at the wrong place. It's evolving. Our map is ever evolving because, as we all know, then, a structure burns down. You build something else in a different place. So it's a moving target, but we've spent a tremendous amount of time on it. And I would invite anyone to look at our map. We have a publicly facing map on our website. You can just type in Mississippi Broadband Map, and I think it'll probably go to my website, which is beam.ms.gov.
I'm on it right now. I just clicked on the map. So
you can look up your address. You can look up anybody's address. And, this is all information that the FCC has. So, if you get a little freaked out that it's got your address on it, it's the FCC has this on a national map. We took it and packaged it a little bit differently so it is easier for consumers to understand. And then also we added all of this information that is helping us in the build-outs. There was a tremendous amount of locations in Mississippi that were already funded through different funding programs prior to those things that I just mentioned. Mississippi had a big RDOF award, which is Rural Development Opportunity Fund. That was an FCC program that was run, I think, in 2019, 2020. That had a 10-year build-out. Now, most of those build-outs have been completed. We have a couple that have not really gotten off the ground very good. And Yazoo County, I know, and I've got Bubba in Yazoo County who comments on all of our Facebook. We're trying. But that is not under our control. That is an FCC program. But anyway, Mississippi's had a lot of federal funding. We show that on the map, and then we show these different programs. So it's interesting to look at.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, as I indicated, and it is. It's good information, and I'll say it's improved substantially since the last time I looked at it, which was probably the last time you were on. So you've been busy. All right, so who's doing these build-outs? It's the electric co-ops in the areas they serve primarily, right? So
the co-ops really have already finished the build-outs that they're going to do. I think a couple of co-ops still have some projects going on, Singing River and a couple others. But it is we have a lot of different build-outs from C-Spire, from AT&T, from Comcast, Arriva, which is Bay Springs Telephone. They've kind of rebranded. Let's see, Swift Connect, TEC. I mean, I could go on naming. We have about 10 or 12, and I probably left somebody out there. I'm sorry. Yeah. But we have 10 or 12 internet service providers in Mississippi that we know. We don't have a lot of kind of new fly-by-night companies. We were very careful as we gave this grant money out to those providers. We required financial information. I had all of my accountants and auditors review that, and we rejected some because you've got to have the financial wherewithal to handle these projects along with the technical expertise.
So explain your office's role in this from that perspective.
So what we do is we disperse the money. So the money is not necessarily sitting in our state of Mississippi bank account. We have to draw it down at certain points. And what we do is all of these grants are on a reimbursement basis. So when we award a $5 million grant, we don't just write a check for $5 million. We have certain milestones that the provider has to achieve. We know exactly what locations they have to reach. And so we monitor them. And when they reach the specific milestone, they submit all their documentation, we review it, and then we reimburse them for that portion of the award. Okay. So a lot of people, I've done a lot of community meetings around the state, and people say, this money we always hear this, but it doesn't happen. The money just goes to the big areas. No, we have our eyes and our thumb on this money, and we know exactly where it's going and how it's being spent, and making sure that it goes to these locations that we have on our map that's marked.
Is there some sort of procedure for the grant recipients to confirm, to verify installation, that the service does actually exist as was paid for?
Yes, we have 3 engineering firms that help us do that. We have site visits. We go out, and someone from my office usually joins those visits, and we go out and first of all make sure we see the fiber and see the cabinets and all the stuff you have to have, and then we confirm the speeds as well. And, if it's a fiber service, you're going to have those good speeds. So, and that's really all we are funding. Other than we are funding some low Earth orbit satellite in the BEAD program, which is those last most difficult areas. We are funding about 13,000 locations through satellite. Starlink and Amazon. Amazon came in and bid on them as well. So it's not out there yet, but we.
Well, that's good to know, because I'm sure you've seen it. A lot of folks say, "Gee, why are we spending all this money on wire services when we could be utilizing lower cost wireless services to get to a lot of these areas?"
Exactly. And, I think Starlink and Amazon, they certainly have a place in this. But there's so many areas that just don't have any fiber. And so, I think that's very important for this infrastructure build out.
Yeah, totally right. So what's the schedule as you still work through this?
So we should finish up our capital projects fund, which was the $162 million that I talked about earlier. We're going to finish it up by December. A couple of projects are going to be over in June. But those remaining most difficult, $93,000, we're signing grant agreements this summer, and it's going to be in the next couple of years that those will be completed.
Okay. We got a break. If you can hang around, we keep talking.
Sure can.
Okay. We got Sally Doty, Director of the Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility, talking about powering our entire state with high-speed internet service. Coming right back in the Element Wealth Studio.
Money should never stay. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Let's go.
I'm the chairman of the board. I'm the chairman, baby.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We're talking to Sally Doty, the Director of the Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility, also known as BEAM, that's the acronym. So we'll read this to you on the C Spire text line. Wayne in Batesville says, TVI fiber in Panola County is what I have 5 miles out in the country, fast as any within the Batesville city limits. They were the first co-op in Mississippi to get on board. Is that right?
I'm not sure who was the first to get on board, but our co-ops really have done a great job, as well as other providers are out in our rural areas. Like you said, we're a rural state, so it's important. One thing also we're doing with a little small portion of the CPF funding, actually we've had some of those projects come in under budget, so we've been able to reprogram that money, and we've used it for some public Wi-Fi access in some downtown areas, some squares. That's been really popular. In fact, I believe Mac South has a project that's had 52,000 users on their public Wi-Fi so far.
Wow!
So it's a very popular area. We've got now only providers can apply for that. So if you're a town that wants it, go talk to whoever provides your internet, and we have that open right now. We have another grant round open now.
I think there's some confusion about, because we talked a lot about the electric co-ops being involved in this program, but that's primarily because they got right-of-way, they've got infrastructure, they've got access to every address in the rural areas. I mean, that's who serves the rural areas from an electricity perspective. And so they hopped on this program years ago, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But there are some who are served by Entergy or TVA or Mississippi Power. And in those cases, tell the folks who they would be relying on to provide their internet access.
So those electric co-ops, and not every electric co-op. I think we have 17 out of our 25 electric co-ops who did get into the broadband business. Some did not. And so those are provided in a different way. Maybe it's AT&T may have fiber on the poles. They may have it buried. So, always there have been, pole attachments with different types of services on Entergy poles or different co-op poles, and that's just the way it is. Although we do have a lot of buried fiber projects. It's more expensive at the beginning, but a little bit more, we have such severe weather, so it's better.
A little more reliable.
Yeah, more reliable.
You're subject to somebody digging it up, but it's pretty low risk, honestly.
It is. And, we want to get the word out there, too. There is no copper in this fiber. Leave our fiber alone. And if we could catch those people.
That's the message for the thieves.
That is the message for the thieves who may be listening to you is don't bother the fiber. And don't bother the copper either.
Yeah, they steal the copper and the lights go out, and it's very aggravating. We have standards all over the state that don't illuminate because the thieves, the crooks, have taken the copper.
I drive around the state a lot, and it ticks me off to no end.
Me too.
Yeah, when there's a strand of lights that somebody's stolen copper.
Well, the taxpayers are paying for those standards and all the costs associated to install and maintain those, but we can't light them up because they keep stealing the dang fiber.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
So let's all turn them all in, right? If you see anybody.
Mose, who's a regular listener to our show, said, here outside of Monticello, the provider went live last week. They said they are testing the system now. I'm waiting on them to call me back with an appointment for installation. So that's good news. That's what this is all about.
It is great news, and I know that's a TEC project, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Outside of Monticello. That's in my old Senate district, so I've watched that pretty carefully. But, we've got great success stories all around the state now. I do know a lot of people are still waiting, and it's going to take some time. They are large-scale infrastructure projects that take a couple of years.
Yeah.
So we're signing grant agreements on the final 93,000. We're signing those this summer.
Okay.
I'm also about to do a tour kind of around the state of each planning and development district. We found that's the best way really to reach out to communities. There are 10 planning and development districts. We met with them early on, and now we're going to meet with them and talk about what the award is in your area. Are there some problems that we need to talk about early on? Railroad crossings, things of that nature. We tried to draw project areas so we didn't have those issues, but they're notoriously hard to get across. Okay. But we're going to go meet with those planning and development districts so we can dive into, these are the providers that are going to build these remaining locations in your areas. And where we're building with these final locations, they're not towns. It is rural greenfield area. So that's the best way to get out to those county supervisors. I spoke at the supervisors conference last week.
Yeah.
And told them we were coming and we could get into detail about their areas when we get there.
Okay. Somebody asked about Yazoo County.
So Yazoo
I'm
County,
looking at it on the map. I don't see anything.
Yazoo County was awarded to a provider in RDOF, the FCC program, RDOF, the Rural Development Opportunity Fund. And the provider there is Aristotle Communications, and they have certain milestones that they have to hit in the next couple of years, and they have not hit those milestones yet.
Okay.
I'm watching it. I don't have any control over it. I've had some calls with the FCC about it. Because it does appear to be a slower build out. But I'm assured by that provider. I've had a call with that provider, and they assure me that they are building out and they will meet that obligation.
So, Sally, when you look at the map here, I looked at Yazoo County and I filter for just unserved. and nothing comes up. So the red dots indicate unserved. So in a county like Yazoo, it doesn't show that it's in either status.
Well,
what does that mean?
because we had to make some decisions on how our map would work. So what we have, if it is funded, we do not count it as unserved, which I know doesn't feel right, but that's all funded, but it hasn't been built yet.
But that's denoted in green according to the
all of the
map.
Green is what has been
the key.
Funded.
Okay. And I see some
so Yazoo
some green
County has
in
been
Yazoo.
funded.
Yeah, I see
and
that.
actually, everything in the state should be funded now.
Okay.
Everything. We should not have anything that shows as red. Every residential address in the state of Mississippi should have either high-speed service already or a commitment from a provider to build it within the next 4 years.
Okay. All right. Well, this latest update on this map was a couple of months ago. Well, actually, a month ago, May. So I do see a little bit of red in some areas on there, but maybe that just needs to be current.
I think that might be some of our cleanup that we need to do. But we get updates from the FCC every 6 months, and so we update our map every 6 months as to what is served and then what else is funded. But we should have everything that's funded out there now.
Yeah, well, the good news is, and look at this map just at a high level, it's mostly white, which indicates it's served, or it's green, which indicates it's funded.
Yes.
A few remaining areas that show unserved, but those could be just lagging and needing updates.
I think that's probably some issue with our map. I think it's very few.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, so as you know, anytime you come on, we talk about this. Our text line always goes a little crazy. Folks reporting, kind of what their status is.
That's what
I do encourage you to go look at the map. Hopefully, we can get it updated here soon and get current status on that.
Sure will.
And it's a great tool. I agree. I love it.
It is. I heard that even one ambulance service over in the Delta was using our map because it is such a good map. So I would encourage you to visit that map and look at it. I've had some people who call into our office who say, "Oh, my service is so slow," and I'm like, "Well, let me look." Well, did you know you have an option? You have another provider.
Okay.
So it shows you all of the different providers and the options that you have, and there may be an option for a provider with a better service
that you're just unaware of.
That you just didn't know about.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. So again, tell the folks what's the goal as far as just being complete here. What the date of that? You have a schedule on that, I guess.
You hate to say these long dates, but the providers have 4 years from the date they signed the grant agreement. Okay. So our last grant agreements are going to go out this summer, and so it will be 4 years from this summer. The RDOF program that I talked about, that's an FCC program, it started in 2020. It has a 10-year build-out, so it completes so hate to tell you Yazoo County, but they've got a few more years in that program to meet those milestones. But in 2030, everything should be built out. And, that used to sound like it was a long time ago, but it's really not.
Creeping up on us now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Well, I know you've been before, but we got the fair this week. You going to make an appearance over there?
I think I am going to go to the fair. Last year I had a great talk with the tribe about some of their internet. They've had a great build out, and so I think it's good to be there and hear people. And we listen to what is told to us in the Beam office, and we take it back and run it all down.
Sure, good.
Yeah.
That's what people want to hear.
Exactly.
That your agency's being responsive and hearing what folks say on the street, you take action.
We certainly do. I'd encourage anyone, if you need us, info@beam.ms.gov is our email line. That's the best way to get an answer, and we'll call you back and talk to you about any problem you have.
That's all you can ask for. Sally Doty, Director of the Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility, also known as Beam. Thanks for coming on, Sally.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Coming right back in the Element Wealth Studio.
From the Seabrook. Get on! Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is on
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. Yeah, we know folks are sending us texts, and we appreciate that. We've got some challenges with the network today because of the weather. It's really taking its toll. And, yep, Rhino was doing his best to respond to everyone, and we apologize for that. What I can tell you is that we received messages from our engineers early this morning. They were on it as soon as it was detected and still working on it, resolution. So we apologize for that. It's just one of those crazy things that you wouldn't think. But, yeah, the weather can affect that. So in the process of being remedied is the best we can offer you right now. We apologize for that. You can always get us on the SuperTalk Mississippi app or on a full-size computer, your laptop, PC, by just navigating to supertalk.fm, and you can pick us up. So that's the cool thing about all the various ways that our shows are transmitted besides just over the air that you can pick up on a standard radio, of course. So apologize for that. Working on it, no doubt. Engineers are working on getting it resolved as we speak. Mo says, yep, she's right. It's TEC. I believe, Rhino, that's Telephone Electronics Corporation. And I actually worked with those guys back in the 90s when they had a relationship with Hughes Networking. So that is the Howard Hughes Company. And by the way, the Hughes Network part of the business, it had really two primary product lines of business, I should say. One was they were in the satellite business, Hughes Networking. And they also were in the tool business, by the way, Hughes Tool. I mean, Howard Hughes, a prolific entrepreneur and really oversaw a conglomerate. The tool company, as I recall, makes industrial bits for drilling for oil. Super expensive, very sophisticated bits that literally break through the surface and drill for oil. The networking company, mainly involved in the creation of software, not needed anymore. His time has passed its by, but they made some software that was used to manage networks that used the Novell network operating system. Boy, that's a long time ago. A guy named Ray Norda out of Utah literally invented and created the software that permitted PCs to communicate with servers. I know that's nothing today, but you'd have a kind of a meaty server that had powerful processors and storage, and you would install your business software on it in your office, and computers would link to it rather than having that replicated on all the computers. Kind of a forerunner to the modern-day web-based internet access we're accustomed to today. You go to a browser and navigate to a site, type your credentials in, and boom, there's the software. That didn't exist back then, but inside an office, in a building, if you will, you would connect all these PCs at the workstations up to server or servers, and it's this operating system that Ray Norda invented called Novell that kind of tricked the machine, if you will, into allowing these software products that were designed for personal use to be shared and accessed and data stored on the central server.
Wasn't Novell that bet big on, what was the name of that Word document? Word Perfect? Was that?
Yeah, so they
compete with Microsoft Office.
So Word Perfect, Novell, both from Utah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can't remember which, but I was a dealer at the time. One of them bought the other.
I think Novell bought Word Perfect.
I think
that was
you're
their
right.
big bet that kind of put them behind the eight ball for a while there.
By the way, this is pre-Windows. This is pre-Microsoft Word. That wasn't even a twinkle in the eye. We're talking about in the 80s. And Both in Utah and WordPerfect was like the gold standard word processing. Before that, believe it or not, it was WordStar. And WordStar operated on a different operating system, pre-PC DOS and MS-DOS. It operated under what's called CP/M, and it was kind of cryptic. I used to say you needed toes, nose, and elbows to operate it. Could it be like Control/G and that deleted or something crazy like that? Wasn't intuitive. What you see,
kind of thing where you have to have a couple different layouts to put over your keyboard to use it.
I still have it. I literally still have the template that fit above your keyboard with the cheat sheet. Still have that as a relic at my house somewhere. But when the DOS was invented, WordPerfect came onto the scene, and they say, "Hey, look, this is a better word processing program, all character based." You would install WordPerfect on the server, and everybody in your office could access it. You had to pay the license fee, of course, appropriately, but you didn't have to install it on every machine, and then mainly didn't have to update it and support it and deal with all the problems associated with it being installed in mass throughout an organization. You could centralize it. Well, where I was going with this, I'm sorry to digress there, but Hughes Networking created this software that was meant to manage like multiple Novell servers. It was a management tool. But they also were playing around. They'd launched satellites. Got to remember, it's Howard Hughes, the space guy. So they launched satellites, and they were already, back then, thinking about delivering communications. By the way, Rhino, not internet. There was no internet. It was just a way for companies, businesses, their branches, for example, to connect using satellite communications, because you didn't have fiber and copper planted all over the country like we do today. So if you had a headquarters and branches, for example, and you wanted to connect the branches to headquarters, there were limited options, and even if you could get traditional wired telecom services, it was outrageously expensive. I mean, like 1.5 megabit for $30,000 a month. Insane. Think about that. Megabit. This is back in the 80s. So these
Not
guys,
to be confused with megabyte.
Right. So these guys at Hughes came up with this solution that involved satellites. Well, Telephone Electronics Corporation, right here in Mississippi, they got involved in that, approached us when I was in business, and we actually installed it in our business to connect to our other locations, and they were installing that. And that didn't last long because all of a sudden we started getting fiber. And what made fiber practical and why it is the standard now for data transmission is when scientists literally came up with a way to make fiber far less susceptible and sensitive to just handling. But back in those days, you looked at it wrong. Oh, it spoiled it. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not much. Little bitty change in direction and crimps, boom, fiber's no good. Well, that's changed now. So that's why when you run down the interstate, you see those big orange rolls of orange conduit, I should say. It's plastic conduit, 4 or 5 inches in diameter, and you see a machine that's installing that stuff underground. That's got fiber optic bundles in it, is what that is. And we've been busy the last few decades installing that all over the country.
Material sciences really are the unsung hero of technological advance.
100%. And guess who's behind that? Corning. They make glass. And if you've watched their company and their stock and their earnings, through the roof because of all this fiber we're using in the data center build out. But when we figured out a way that you could handle fiber without risking spoilage and just rendering it unusable just because you crimped it a little bit, when we figured that out, it changed the world. To your point, it also drove the cost down substantially. But before then, these guys at Hughes Network, along with one of their partners in Mississippi, Tech, were already thinking about using satellites. actually gave it to us to try out. And you know what that ultimately became, by the way? DirecTV. That same satellite that they launched to provide private connectivity, not internet public, private to connect to businesses' locations, ultimately evolved into DirecTV. All true story. Little history there for you. Sorry to take your time up with that. Thought you might be, because there's a Mississippi connection. That's what's cool about it. And here they are still today, involved in building out broadband and serving the landscape of Mississippi. Coming right back.
Poly up of Mississippi.
Are we going to do this?
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Okay, I got a message from Sally when I was asking her about the distinction between the red dots and why some areas don't show that. And because she had indicated that everything is good to go, that there shouldn't be any essentially areas that would show the red dots, that even all the unserved areas have contracts authorizing the provider to deploy service. She said red dots don't have a signed grant agreement yet, but all locations in Mississippi are funded or served, and grant agreements will be signed in the next 2 months. Waiting on feds for one final detail. Okay, so appreciate that text there, Sally, and that explanation. Just wanted to pass that on to the folks. So sounds like, Rhino, we're well on our way. I mean, if you think about first time we talked to her 2-3 years ago, I don't remember exactly, when this was created by the governor and she was appointed to head that agency, they've been busy, made a lot of progress. And at first I was concerned that many of the co-ops wouldn't participate in the program, but it sounds like the majority are. There's still a few that have decided for various business reasons not to, but there's still options, and that's what Beam is doing. They're working with other providers to service those areas. So looks like we're well on our way to achieving ubiquitous high-speed coverage here in the state of Mississippi. So I know that for those that aren't yet hooked up, that's still you're in a hurry. There's a sense of urgency. You want to get that, want to make it happen. Not much I can say other than hang in there, that a lot of folks are working on it. I know Sally and her team certainly are. Funding is there. And, of course, the electric co-ops and Internet services providers are out there as well installing this infrastructure. It is a slow process. It does take time. Lots of moving parts. Let's see here. Ray in Long Beach said, I'm out here in Picayune today splicing up some fiber on a new overlay job, feeding another area with a fiber option. And to your point, Ray, you may remember, Rhino, there was a time when there was no splicing. You couldn't do that. You pretty much had to use it for its length, and you connected on both ends, terminated on both ends, and that's it. You couldn't splice to extend it or go in a different direction or anything like that. And that's the point I'm making. And you made a great point that I guess the unsung heroes of all of this high-speed connectivity in our digital world that we all enjoy today are the people involved in that physical infrastructure. You said material sciences. Absolutely, 100%, no doubt. And I also pointed out, same is true with the electronic equipment, the network devices, if you will, that where the fiber connects and terminates to the various attachments, and they call them modes that are used in those adapters. That's all improved dramatically as well. Again, making it easy so that folks like our friend Ray here in Long Beach can go out and install this fiber all over the place and get people connected. So, man, that's all a good thing.
Even outside of the realm of telecommunications, just look at material science. You don't have to go that far back to see early plastics like Bakelite and how limited some of those uses were compared to the uses for plastics we have today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool.
It's just wild.
It's big improvement. Paula Meridian says, for those who don't know, you can get the news package on the DirecTV app or on Roku, for $39.95 at your local stations at $39.99, I think, and tons of other stations, included with DVR. Yeah, it's amazing, all that. It really is. You think about all the streaming services and all the channels and all the options. Roku, whom I believe invented that, honestly, if I'm not mistaken, essentially just fusing internet with television. That's really what it does. It sits between it. It's got a network connection on one side, and it's got a connection to your TV on the other in a little bitty box that takes all that content from the internet, stored in data centers, by the way. Oh, man. So I had somebody actually make that argument. Well, we don't need all this new data center construction for any particular reason. It provides no value, right? We could just go back to the way it was before the hyperscalers and you mean before streaming services. Not understanding that, well, I equate it to closets in your house. You walk in, I'll never fill up all these closets. And about a month later, your whole dang house is full of all your closets.
Honey, we got to buy an armoire.
Exactly. This is the same thing. You think we're not creating more data, needing more horsepower? People aren't inventing more applications, more functions, more ways to use all this horsepower? They don't get that, I guess, huh? And streaming services? Just one teeny tiny example of that? Sure, let's go back to the days before that. Just stick your antenna up on your house, right?
And they'll mail DVDs to your house.
Exactly right. Oh, man. We're out of here today. It's Ricky Matthews, Super Talk Outdoors, coming up next. But back with you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe and God bless everyone.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.